Thank you guys for tuning in. This is going to be day one of developing a strong foundation so that you can compete confidently, you can live confidently, you can just be uh, just everything that's super amazing and dope as uh, your life and where you're going to go and how you're going to get there and things like that. So um, excited for you all to see this and join in. So um, day one, we're talking about building foundations. And so as we talk about this idea of building foundations, I think it's important that we find some definitions of the word foundation. So I'm going to pull up the definition here. And so the word foundation in definition is basically an underlying basis or principle. It is something that is a support, right? A structure, a body, a ground. That's something that's built up over time and also built strong enough to withhold or withstand something. So a definition that I came up with is basically something that is able to hold something, like hold the weight of something. So something that's able to hold the weight of something, right? So foundation, that is what it's all about, is when things get tough, when we lose sight of our successes, when we are struggling through our identity, we have to first go back to the main thing that is the main thing, which is, who are we? What do we believe in? What drives us? What motivates us? And what is our foundation? So that is what we are talking about today. So today I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And as I share my screen, I'm just going to pull up a PowerPoint here that kind of gives you some guidance on what we are talking about today. So here we go. So as we are working through a foundation, as a confidence coach, mindset coach, I think it's really important that we begin with this idea of, how do you define mindset? And in general, defining things are going to be the main ways that we can really create strong foundations, because we have to figure out what things look like for us in order for them to show up in our lives the way that we want them to show up in our lives. A lot of people create anxiety and stress because they are striving for something, but they don't actually know what it looks like to get there or to be in that space once it happens. So we're talking about this idea of mindset. So take a moment, write out your definition of mindset, and then we'll come back in about 30 seconds to talk through what I've found or determined mindset to be. All right, go for it. Absolutely. Okay. All right. So in our little mindset world, not little, it's a big world, but in the mindset world, the mental performance world, um, I'm certified with a guy by the name of Brian Kane, as well as a guy by the name of Colin Henderson. And he put the definition of mindset so beautifully that I think it's really important that we kind of honor his definition. It is a part of a Venn diagram. And so the Venn diagram basically shows us that mindset is a set of beliefs that drive our behaviors. So a set of beliefs that drive our behavior. Okay. So when we talk about beliefs, it's important that we know what beliefs or what drives beliefs in our lives. And so I just did a session with the college today, and we talked through this idea of beliefs that drive behaviors. And here's what they've come up with as far as like, what are some things that equate to beliefs, or what things shape or form our beliefs. So one thing they said was basically like family, like traditions, how you grow up, your heritage, things like that, right? So the people that are in your life that are influencing you on a day-to-day basis or a not so day-to-day basis, that's one thing that kind of drives your behaviors. Someone else said this idea of religion. So religion or spirituality is another thing that drives some of your behaviors and how you think and how you move and how you move about this world. And then the last thing that somebody said was this idea of experiences. So things that may have happened in your life, or things that have happened with your family in your life, or places that you've visited or been, all of these things drive your behavior. They're considered these belief systems, and they develop that wholeheartedly. Now, as I was kind of thinking about this definition, I was just thinking about how some of these things were conditioned to do, that they were created, maybe not with the best intentions in mind, or they were said to us and they created these behaviors that we didn't really want to pick up, but we started to pick up because we started to kind of condition ourselves to constantly think it. For instance, you might have had a coach when you were younger that always told you that, you're going to be something, you're going to be awesome, you're going to be great, you're going to be amazing. And honestly, what's really sad is as I've worked with athletes over the last 3 years, it's actually been the reverse of that. It's actually been people who have said to athletes that they are not doing or going to be or good enough or going to do what they need to do to be where they need to get to, or like go to the next level, things like that. So these things are like conditions. And honestly, when you have these conditions, they start to basically drive like some of the things that you do or how you think, your self-doubt, your self-worth, your confidence. It's usually starting to be driven by these people, or these things or these moments in our lives. So to be a little more clear on this, the definition that kind of has stuck with me a little bit more is this idea of conditioned beliefs that drive behavior. So my mindset has been moved, it has been grown, it has been created. Some of my behaviors have been created from these things that have happened to me in my past or throughout my life. And they have since shaped how I have moved around in this world. So I want to give you some examples of that just kind of as a solid foundation for how we're going to build upon our foundation. Some things you'll find that we have to kind of break some stigmas and some stereotypes and some self-beliefs that are detrimental to us and that are actually harming us more than it is helping us. So let me give you a list of some of my conditioned beliefs so you can understand a little bit more of what I'm talking about. Okay, so as we talk about my conditioned beliefs, one of my first ones is the fact that my parents got divorced when I was 7 years old. And when my parents got divorced when I was 7, my dad wasn't around. He didn't show up a lot. And then my mom worked all the time. So we had a ton of babysitters. We always had to try to figure out, how to make it work. I became the responsible older sister. I became the person that, like, when things needed to happen in the house, like I was the one that was supposed to take care of doing that. And so there's a whole nother thing about abandonment that, of course, can create behaviors in your lives. But I think one thing that really is prominent with how divorce and maybe being the oldest child and being responsible has shaped my behaviors in a way that might not actually be beneficial for me. And that is, once I was told that I needed to be responsible and like basically hold my own, I've kind of been growing up in my life with that mentality. So I'm very responsible. I love getting things done. I'm super task oriented. I'm super detail oriented. I like to check boxes. The problem is, though, is that when I need help, I have this wall or this barrier of sometimes that forces me not to ask for help when I need it. And when you don't ask for help when you need it, you're struggling to get to the goal that you have set for yourself. You never can be successful because of this belief that I've created. So that's one area where it's a conditioned belief that has driven my behavior over time. So let me give you another one here. Anxiety and stress. There's so many of us that have gone through this, have had this. I think for me, again, not knowing if my parents were going to show up to my games and not knowing if what I was doing in school was enough to kind of get their attention, it does create this sense of anxiety and stress. I would say another thing that kind of got with me was my identity. Being a African American Black or African American woman who's gay, the identity piece is really, really huge, and who's also a Christian. You see, these are all these like buckets and boxes that people tend to want to put you in, that even I sometimes put myself in. But if you don't fit specifically or how they exactly want you to be in these boxes, it creates a lot of stress and anxiety because, and I think a little bit of like self-loathing because now you're not believing that you deserve to be in these spaces or have these spaces or be a part of these things because of this. So this is something that has been a condition that has been continued to just drive my life. So you guys kind of get the pattern of what I'm getting at. I'm going to show you some more. So injury is another one. Once you've been injured or had an injury or a surgery or some sort, usually coming back to a sport tends to be a little bit more challenging. You're trying to figure out basically, is this injury that I faced, is it going to heal completely? Am I going to lose my spot? Am I going to, when I get back on the field, is it going to really be holding me down? Is it really going to be strong enough for me to keep going, to compete at my best? Or am I constantly going to be thinking about what if this happens again? It is a mind lock that really, really holds you down. So I want you guys to acknowledge like injury is a really, really big one that drives your mindset. Another would be coaching changes. When I was in college, I had one coach that recruited me, and then I had another coach that basically came in my junior year and, really turned the program upside down for the better. And I would say he was someone that also drove my conditions belief, and just kind of how his mentality was and making me think like, man, am I going to be enough or good enough to fit into his system, into what he wants and what he believes in? And, am I going to be good enough to fit into this space, basically, as a thought that kind of comes to mind. So when you have this thought, then you start overcompensating, maybe going extra hard, maybe too much and almost maybe detrimental to you. So these are things that like come to mind, right? So thinking of value, that kind of goes along hand in hand. Not sure of my value, basically because he's a new coach. I think another one is being replaced. He then brought in some players that were his players, and here I was struggling to figure out if I was going to have a spot. If I was going to be able to be on the field. After I've been there for 2 years, I've busted my butt to get on that space, and sure enough, I got replaced. So that was something that definitely held me back a little bit. And I think just in general, self-worth, excuses, truck. I think in general, just self-worth overall is something that honestly we all struggle with, but it is a locked moment that can really, really drive our beliefs and our behaviors. So here's what I want to do right now. I want you to write down what are some of your conditioning beliefs? What are some of the things that are you putting on yourself that is holding you back from reaching your greatest, fullest potential? What is it? I would definitely suggest writing this question down and like pondering this a little bit, like thinking about some of your triggers, some of your struggles, some of the things that you believe you have to do or need to do in order to get to whatever goal that you have set for yourself. So, what is that, or what are those things? Okay. Now, here's the thing. As we talk about these conditioned beliefs, we can probably write down so many things that society, our parents, our coaches, our teammates, our experiences have shown us like, if I want to be the best on the field, I have to do these things. One thing today that was really powerful with the college program that I work with today is continuously one of the things that kept coming up was we are being asked to be athletes before we are being asked to be people. Like, God, when I heard that, like that really made me so sad that that is what these athletes think, that they have become conditioned to believe that they have to be machines who perform constantly, no days off, giving 100% every day, no feelings, no stress, no tiredness. They basically have to work through these in order to sustain their spot, be a great teammate, be a great athlete. And it just really, really like made me cry. You know, I was really struggling in that space when I was hearing that. And the reality is this is a real thing that these athletes are thinking. Hence why I created my program where I work with college athletes on developing the whole and complete athlete. So I work with these programs. I solicit the opportunity to work with programs so I can help them help themselves. So while they're spending time, you know, training the muscles of the body and the craft, they can bring me in. I can take care of building the mind and the person. So a little sidebar there. If you're watching this ever and you want to know more about it, definitely reach out. Even if your athlete is a high school athlete or a middle school athlete and you really understand the need to develop them as complete people first, this would be a great time for you to reach out to me and either get a part of my mentoring academy, you know, be more active in this mighty network community, or schedule a one-on-one consultation with me, and let's get them squared away. Okay, but here's a counter to this question that I want you guys to start writing down, and I want you to ask yourself this question at least 5 times. And every time I want you to answer one of the answers in like bullet point form. What is this thing for you? Okay, so I want you to ask this question that's coming up next 5 times and give a different answer for each response. All right, so what is important to you? Now, most people will say family here, and I think that's awesome, and I think it's awesome, but I think what we need to do is define family a little bit more. And I think you should ask some what and why questions around it in our next session. That's exactly what I'm going to do with my answers, so you can kind of get an idea. But family can mean so many different things for so many different people. So I want to make sure that as you're answering the question, that you're truly getting to the root of what is important to you. Okay. But ask yourself that 5 times. And when we come back next Friday, we'll have an opportunity to go a little bit deeper in exactly what this means. Okay. So as we finish up today, I want you guys to know that this session, this first session right here, is this conversation where we are trying to learn about self-awareness. You see, Billie Jean King says the self-awareness is probably the most important thing towards being a champion. In order for you to succeed at your goals and where you want to get to, you first have to know and be self-aware of the things that are holding you back, the triggers that are getting in the way of you moving forward. Also, defining what those things look like. What is the vision of a champion in your mind? So as we end today, I want you to do these exercises. I want you to come back to me next week with the 5 most important things so we can go further and deeper into how we create value for the things that are most important to us. All right, awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys' time. If you are not already following us on social media, make sure you are. The business account is at Lead Hership Athletics. On Instagram, on Twitter, it's at Lead Hership Athlete. But if you want to follow me personally on both platforms, it's at Coach_A Carter. So definitely find us there. Definitely tune into the Mighty Network and be a part of that. And I promise you guys, the podcast is coming back. I am just really excited and grateful to be swamped by travel the next couple of weeks to work with programs to help them develop their complete athletes, and not just for the moment, but for the year and for life, right? Creating a strong foundation so that they can thrive through everything that they have to face and go through as elite athletes. All right. So awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to getting to know you guys better and talking to you guys a little bit more later. Until next time, thank you so very much. I will see you all later. Peace.